All right, just about an hour ago, Nigerian President Muhammadu Buhari signed the 2023 appropriation bill into law. During the speech, he urged the National Assembly to reconsider its position on his proposal to securitize the federal government's outstanding Ways and Means balance at the Central Bank of Nigeria. He also asked the Minister of Finance to work with legislators to revisit some of the changes to the budget, including the Finance Act 2022. Let's take a listen.
The 2023 budget that I have the honor of signing into law today provides for aggregate expenditures of 21.83 trillion naira, an increase of 1.32 trillion naira over the initial executive proposal for a total expenditure of 20.51 trillion naira. As is customary, the Honorable Minister of Finance, Budget and the National Planner will subsequently provide more details of the approved budget and the supporting 2022 Finance Act. We have examined the changes made by the National Assembly to the 2023 Executive Budget Proposal. The amended fiscal framework for 2023, as approved by the National Assembly, shows additional revenues of 765.79 billion naira and an unfunded deficit of 553.46 billion naira.
All right, joining us to discuss further is the host of the Arise Exchange, which you can catch 7 p.m. every weekday on this channel, Boason Omofaye.
Morning.
Should I say Happy New Year?
Well, it's the first time of getting together
on air.
It's the first business day.
Indeed.
And we got a budget on the table. That's our breakfast.
That is our breakfast today.
Okay,
Boason, what are your thoughts?
Let's have breakfast.
We'll start with bread and then the eggs.
I think the hottest part of it is the Ways and Means. Of course, everyone knows it. The finance bill was tinkered a little bit with by the Senate and the House of Reps. It was to be a public debate. Folks in the industry said they're not really too happy that there was no public debate on the Finance Act before it was eventually passed by both the upper and the lower legislative houses. So they were not really happy there because they thought that a few things could be tweaked a little bit and not just passed, as it were, because the Finance Act gives life, as it were, to the budget. And we've seen that happen over the last 3-4 years that this administration had now introduced the finance bill as the back end of the budget, which the private sector tends to look a whole lot more holistically rather than the main budget itself. So that has helped over the past few years. It has helped give the government a bit of a direction and the organizations as to what tax do I expect to pay, what are the benefits that I get, what bonuses do I get, what more am I going to pay, what needs to tweak higher or lower. So the Finance Act is the heart, as it were, of the budget. Because again, we need a budget that is private sector led rather than a civil service, public service focused. So the Finance Act is that particular part of whether it's a CIT or whether it's education tax levy that has gone up. We're now going to be having one of the highest corporate tax regime in the world, in a manner of speaking. Some proposed investment tax on gas, investment in gas utilization, optimization has now been redrawn by the National Assembly. So I expect that the private sector will start taking a strong position from today. On television, on radio, everywhere, they're going to be speaking up about how will this budget really work in an election year. It's going to be really, really tight. Everyone moving this particular budget into a safe harbor, in a manner of speaking. And what the new administration will do from June forward. So now we're going to deal with the first 6 months of this administration coming to an end, then the next chapter opening up June the 1st.
What do you make of, as far as the president talking about the delays in getting the Finance Act put together, saying that the understanding is that these levies, you mentioned oil and gas, some of them will actually reverse the gains in the Petroleum Industry Act. So is it a wise move to take some more time to tinker with the Finance Act and make sure that we've got buy-in from the private sector and so on?
The Petroleum Industry Act is a document already, but it can always be revisited. The government is tight, as it were. Ways and Means is there. There's a whole lot of issues about how to balance this trilemma of tax, revenue, and debt, which are the 3 biggest issues Nigeria has. We need to deal with tax, we need to get revenue, whether from tax and other sources, then we need to deal with debt servicing. So debt servicing will take from your tax, from your revenue, and you need to pay it out. What is left for us in terms of development,
Right.
health,
Capital
education,
expenditure.
whatever, capital expenditure, whatever, goes into the small bowl, as it were, at the end of the production chain. So it's a very tight one. Now, the PIA and the amendments made in the Finance Act, the government is trying to look, can we push back a bit of few things in the PIA and see how we can bring in more money? The government needs all the revenue it can take. But I think, without really shooting ourselves in the foot as far as the PIA is concerned, because we need the investments in the oil and gas, as it were, and we all know what the global sentiment is around fossil fuel, hydrocarbon investments around the world. The folks in East Africa they're getting the heat right now because nobody is putting any money into that. And they want to get it up and running. So we need to have a very quick way out of not hurting the PIA and those who are thinking, both locally and outside, to invest in our oil and gas sector and look for other ways in which we need to get revenue in, what you call free money. And that means we need to hit the ground very quickly on privatization. The government is looking to sell some of the power generating companies. For example, the Geregu Power.
Which is listed on the NGX?
Yeah, the second one. There are two. So the second one, which is next door to it, is going for sale. The BP is moving very quickly on that. If we can rake in additional billions of dollars, as it were, from the sale of this energy asset, which is a cash cow for us, then we can put that in the bucket. Then we can begin to look at other privatization programs or some other enterprises that we've delayed for so long. We've talked about for the last 3-4 years. There are a few government entities that had gone moribund, halfway moribund. Do we have local investors, foreign investors that can take them up very quickly, and government can rake in some money and let these companies go to the private sector to create jobs? The government may not be able to sell them optimally for value for money, but whatever the government gets in terms of cash will be upgraded by the fact that once private investors get into these companies, they will turn them better, they will create jobs, they'll inject capital, they can take a few of them to the capital market for capital raising, and then we can bring in foreign investors as well. So the whole job creation, government needs to let go of a number of assets it's holding, and that has to be as quickly as possible. And this administration can still get a whole lot done between now and June.
Okay, Boason, you sound very optimistic, and I'm glad you do. We just, on the morning show, just half an hour ago, the Minister of Mines and Steel, Mr. Adegbite, was on, saying that you cannot preempt the illegality, that is the illegal mining that takes place because of the vast amount of size of the country. He said that also Dr. Abati was asking him about how Nigeria, which probably has more resources than South Africa and Australia, all these other, has not been able to utilize our resources, optimize. And then he said that we lack data to be able to flourish, to use to attract foreign investors into our mining sector, which did, I don't know, 2-3% of growth last year. In fact, it's actually been in recessionary territory. Are you confident that we can attract the investment needed into a sector like that, or
the mining sector? Mapping were done in the 40s or 50s, to my knowledge, a couple of years ago, working reporting the mining sector and commodities sector. Mapping were done. Those maps, you can find them today. Many of those maps are in the pockets of the big multinationals who know where the resources are. I'm not too sure how the Ministry of Mines and Science, whatever, Mines and still have those maps. I heard that they were trying to remap the whole country because you need to map it very well first. That's what South Africa, Ghana, and a few other countries have done very well in Australia. So you need to do mapping. Once we've done with mapping, you know what resources is where. The way we've done very well in oil and gas. So we know what gas is here, how many cubic of gas is here, how many barrels of here, whatever is done here. The Ministry of Mines and Industry and the agencies need to begin to be a bit more effective. Like the Ministry of Petroleum Resources and the NNPC. And I haven't seen them behave that way. And it has to start happening. They seem to be a little bit laid back because the mining resources alone is huge. It's bigger than petroleum resources and whatever. Look at the whole of 2020 pandemic 21 for Botswana, for example. The whole world went into crisis as far as the COVID-19 was concerned. Botswana was making money before that because diamonds is forever. And folks, the ultra wealthy came back from the pandemic and they start making money from diamonds. The mining companies around the world also, because resources are in demand. So we need to focus more on that. So we need to find a way to rejig the Ministry of Mines and Steel as well. Maybe we need to separate the two. I don't know.
Like
I'm not
we
too
did
sure.
with power works housing and all that other
Yes,
stuff.
maybe we need to take mines out of steel. So that the mining sector can actually, the mining ministry can be a mining ministry in the real sense of it.
Right.
I'm not too sure South Africa has mines and steel together under the same minister.
Yeah.
Maybe we need to separate the two so that it makes it very easy for the Ministry of Mining to really hit the ground.
And contribute revenue.
Yes,
to the
generously.
government.
You have gold in your state. Gold refineries are being started. The private sector are coming in, but they are hacked in by illegal folks locally, with foreign collaborators. They are making money. We're talking about oil theft.
Yeah.
The theft that is going
In
on
the
in
mining
gold and mining
sector is
huge. You don't even know how many tons of gold that's been taken out. We can count the ones of the oil barrels because there's a quota from OPEC.
Right.
But as far as the world of mining is concerned, I'm not too sure the mining industry, also the mining sector, and still is playing the front part of that.
Boason, very quickly, a minute ago,
The ways and means.
Exactly. So the debt is 44 trillion. Ways and means is 22. You add DMO hasn't accounted for that. That's over 66 trillion.
Yeah.
Can you quickly, can we sort this out? Because the legislature kicked back against the president trying to securitize it. The law is a hindrance.
They want clarity.
Yeah.
I think the Ministry of Finance, the Central Bank of Nigeria, and I think the DMO need to have a public discourse on this. And they need to bring pension firms and others into it. I love securitization.
Right.
The idea was floated during the banking reform of Lamido Sanusi, the central bank governor, then with the banking sector. They said, look, on board all of this, and the Stock Exchange brought that proposal forward. On board some of this, whatever, and bring them to the market, let the market buy into it. Can we securitize these ways and means and target as perhaps development bonds? Let's tie it to something concrete.
Right.
The central bank need to fully disclose how much is on the table. The Ministry of Finance need to fully disclose the books. I think it has to be a public hearing in a manner of speaking at the National Assembly, in which all parties come, including DMO. Then you have the high net worth firms, pensions, insurance, annuity guys, and everybody come together and say, look, can we securitize it to fund infrastructure? Is it power sector we want to call it? Or ways and means securitization or bond for power sector, or for road, or for education, or for hospitals? So that the private sector that's going to buy this 40-year bond has been proposed also know exactly what they are putting their money into.
Exactly.
And not just the regular vanilla DMO bond that is already being traded every day, as it were.
Yeah.
Central bank has special bills or special treasury bills. Can we securitize this and target if it's developmental, so that we know that this money, when it comes back, is going into
those
specific development goals, projects, and whatever. That is what I want to hear from the Minister of Finance, in particular, not necessarily the central bank. The central bank will just show me the books of how much is ready.
Was given, exactly.
The job is for the Ministry of Finance, the finance minister, to tell us with the executive branch, either accountant general, whoever, to sit down, the DMO and the DG budget, to say, look, this is what we want to do. This is how we have packaged it. Don't just securitize it and just put it on the market. Tie it to a certain development that both local and international investors can buy into it.
Gotcha.
So if it's a 40-year, you want to do rail, you want to do speed rail, you want to do airports, you want to do repair the dams, as it were. Pick your choice. We have a whole line we can do. You want to build airports, you want to do whatever. Let's tie it to specific projects. So that we can know what the ways and means have gone into. Because this administration is going to pass it on now
to the new one.
Right. Whether it's the same political party or whatever, it doesn't matter to me. Investors need clarity. Investors need to know, what am I putting my money into? So that you don't overburden the existing fixed income market. So it can be a tradable type of bond. Okay, and you can put it on the FMDQ. So the FMDQ needs to be in the same room when this conversation has been done. You need to have the Arise Xchange Group Limited also in the same room. You need to have all the exchanges in there, including the NESD. All parties should be at the table. And everybody brings the best ideas forward as to how do we securitize it, how do we target, how do we trade it, what do we need to create a special window for it on the NGX, or as well as an FMDQ Securities Exchange, to make sure that investors know what they are doing. Do we need to roll it out as a savings bond in which Nigerians can be part of it? All that structure needs to be in place. I think that's that's what the National Assembly, the senators and the House of Reps are asking of, but that's my idea as a financial journalist.
Hey, and one of the best financial journalists that we're happy to have on the Arise channel.
My
He is Boason Omofaye, Arise Exchange, 7 p.m. weekdays, Monday through Friday. Catch him on the show.